We're on week 9 of our 13-week series on Living the Science of Mind, which is a book of essays by Ernest Holmes. And this week, our focus is your word. All of the topics are independent, and I hope that you'll go out and watch all of them. Today, we explore how powerful your thoughts can be. And we look at the boomerang effect of our thoughts and how quickly they operate and return to us. To understand the magnitude and the power of your word, it's important for each of us to remember this simple fact. The divine spirit is present within us, no matter where we are. So before our lesson, we begin with our question of the week. What is the one choice that you can make today to know that the good you desire, you already possess? To accept that you are a spiritual broadcasting system. And to remember that your word operates instantly. So one more time. What is the one choice that you can make today to know the good you desire, you already possess? To accept you are a spiritual broadcasting system, and to remember your word operates instantly. In the reading today, we heard about the lost word, that word that we have right within our mouths. It might seem difficult that we could use our word the way in which Jesus did. And we must remember that Jesus told us, this and even greater things will you do. And to use our word in a powerful way, it's essential for us to know there is a power and a truth which we can indeed use in such a way that good and only good can follow. In his essay on the story of the lost word, Holmes reminds us that love opens the doorway to the secret chamber. So this power, this truth, must be used affirmatively. Holmes wrote this: we cannot use it while our words are filled with doubts and uncertainties about it. Love is a feeling. Faith is the key to using this feeling. Love has nothing in it that will deny any good. This is the starting point. A love that cannot hurt, and a faith that will not be denied. If the starting point is love and faith, can you imagine where we might go from there? How do we go about discovering the power for good, the love and the faith we use to truly live in the kingdom of God, in the kingdom of good, in the kingdom of love, that kingdom of heaven that Jesus told us lived within us? Well, we apply love to every situation and every obstacle that shows up in our lives. Holmes tells us precisely how to do this in 3 simple steps. Well, maybe not so simple, but in a 3-step process. First of all, we must realize that the power exists and that it operates from the center of our own being, in our own minds. Next, we must approach it in love. And then we must use it affirmatively. Okay, so when problems or obstacles show up in my life, I admit I don't always go to that 1, 2, 3 solution that Holmes provided. I also know I'm getting a lot better at it as I learn to practice and live my faith every day. What if just for one day you decided that any obstacle, any annoyance that occurred in your life, you were going to shift by approaching it with love, remembering first, there is a power and you can use it to overcome this obstacle. Second, that power and love exist right within you. And third, you can create good thoughts, affirmative thoughts about the person or the situation so that you can shift it. Here's an example. Think of a person who constantly seems to be able to push your buttons. Those buttons that you installed, but they know right where they are. Perhaps it's your lack of patience or your need to be right button. Now, think this. I have the power to overcome this. I have enough love in me to see this differently and to be more accepting. And third, this person or situation has some good qualities which I can use to create more loving thoughts. Sometimes the situation is just meant to open our eyes to those amount of love that exists within us, to jolt us from our apathy or our failure to be consistent with our spiritual practices. What I know is that it takes practice and consistent application of these 3 steps for us to become more ingrained in loving, more ingrained in our own being. I suspect you didn't learn to ride a bicycle or to swim proficiently the first time that you got on that bike or got in the water. You have to practice. Yes, we need to practice being more loving and more accepting. We need to practice seeing good and God in everything, everyone, and every situation. Holmes, in his essay about the last word, reminds us that it is about practicing truth and love, but that's just the beginning. Here's what he had to say. Really, this truth we have found marks but the beginning of a new day, a new experience, a new life. A life no longer disturbed by fear or haunted by doubts or filled with regrets of the past or misgivings over the future. A life that can be lived in its fullness today. And a life that will extend through all tomorrows in an ever-broadening arena of experience, an ever-deepening realization of a presence and a power and a peace that gives us complete security and an even greater vision of the more that is yet to come. I know that I want that ever-deepening realization of the presence within me, and I'm certainly willing to practice to get it. How about you? I often tell people that one of the ways to impact strained relationships is just to open your heart and to mentally send out love to the other person. If we truly embrace the philosophy that we are all one, that we are all connected, then at some level, our hearts are intertwined and connected so that we can feel each other. Think about it. Have you ever picked up the phone to make a phone call at the same time that it rings and the person that you were going to call is calling you? Yes, we are connected. And our thoughts are very powerful. Holmes tells us that they are like a spiritual and mental broadcasting system. And in his essay, You Are a Spiritual Broadcasting System, Holmes writes this: we are all broadcasting stations, whether or not we know it. Our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, our faiths and fears tend to make an imprint on our environment. We are also receiving sets, but it does not follow that we must tune in to every program being broadcast. When we want to listen to a certain program, we tune our radios to its wavelength. The program already is within the ether in the room, but it does not affect our environment until we tune into it. Our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to become aware of what we are broadcasting and what our receiving sets are tuning in to listen to. Think about another wise phrase of Jesus. What you give is returned to you, multiplied abundantly. What we broadcast impacts what we receive. If you're watching the news every night and condemning or judging the people whose values are not in alignment with yours, what are you broadcasting? Love or judgment? And if you see a homeless person and allow your thoughts to think of them as lazy or incompetent or incapacitated in some way, what are you broadcasting? Love or judgment? And if you do something that you wished you hadn't done and you blame and shame yourself for it, what are you broadcasting? Love or judgment? Holmes reminds us to use our broadcasting systems wisely. Here's what he had to say. We have to be flexible and tolerant, as well as positive and affirmative. And even if someone throws a brick at us, we need not catch it. It is far better just to step aside. When we catch the bricks that are thrown at us, it is generally for one purpose only, to throw them right back. And the first thing we know, the air is full of bricks, and what a mess that makes. It will help if we decide to play the game of life in a happy way. I know that I wish I were more flexible at times and more tolerant at times, and I'm learning not to dwell on those times when I'm not, and not to shame myself about them. You know, stuff happens, and it happens for a reason. I've learned that it is my spiritual practices, especially prayer, that sustains me and that keeps me in my place of joy. So when I'm having a challenge, my go-to place is to call for prayer. For myself, for my prayer partners, for my friends, I send out a text and say, this is happening. Send a prayer for me. Prayer is such a powerful way for us to use our word. It's such a wonderful way for us to communicate with the divine, to ask for what it is that we're seeking so that God can give it to us. And all too often, as I was saying a couple weeks ago, we don't want to bother God with the little annoyances of life. Stop that. God doesn't have limitations. And remember to talk to God, not at God. Truly make a connection with that higher power and that truth, and ask for what it is that you're seeking. And then listen. It's true that listening might require us to pause and allow some stillness to come into our life. It probably will even require us to turn off those devices that we're so used to using all our waking hours. Prayer and listening requires us to settle into our hearts. If you want your spiritual broadcasting system to send out love, then focus on being loving, and then wait for it to be returned abundantly. And the way you tune into the receiving channel is to be open, an open receptacle for love. What I have found over the years is that some people put up such huge walls to avoid being hurt that they cannot receive love or kindness. Perhaps they felt in some way that they were taken advantage of or being used or being made to feel stupid, and they've blocked their receiving antenna. Have you ever noticed that when someone who is sad all the time walks into the room, that the energy shifts? And the same is true when someone who walks into the room who's always in joy. And that love and that joy of that person lights up a room. I know which of those people I want to tune into with my receiving system. How about you? The people that we are around impact how we feel and how we behave. And one of the big lessons of the week is that we have a choice of what we tune into. As our opening song mentioned, we can choose heaven. We can choose peace. We can choose joy. We can choose to live in the joy and the love of life. There's a line in the Course in Miracles that I just love, and it says, "My sight goes forth to look upon Christ's face." My sight goes forth to look upon Christ's face. What a lovely way to live, to see everyone as love, to know that we have sight, that we can look upon each face that we encounter as Christ's face. That every person we encounter is indeed the face of God. When someone is calling you names or putting you down in any way or judging you in any way, you don't have to choose to be around that person or to tune in to that message. Turn off your receiving system. And remember also that that behavior on their part is actually a call for love. And what you broadcast back is going to impact what you receive. So I'm always telling you, when there's a call for love, it's our blessing to be able to send out love in response. It's also important for us to recognize that we have a guide that can help us to see things from a different perspective. That guide is our own power, our own truth, that place within us that's never been harmed and never been injured. It's that place within us that is unconditional love. And that unconditional abides in a place where it's instantaneous for us in our dealings with others and with ourselves to move from judgment to acceptance, to move from displeasure to understanding, to move from distrust to trust, to move from discord to harmony, to let go of being right and just desire to love. This guide that lives within us, this heaven that is within us, is what we tap into when we become aware of who we truly are. Beings of love walking this planet. Beings whose broadcasting stations send out only love, acceptance, understanding, trust. Part of our meditation today were these words: I desire that everything I think shall be from the heart as well as from the head. I wish to broadcast kindness and love, sympathy and understanding, peace and joy. No condemnation, judgment, or fear shall go from me to anyone or anything. Imagine if this were each of our prayers this week, that everything we broadcast came from our heart, that everything we broadcast was sending out loves. Think about that for a moment. If we believe that what we broadcast comes back to us, what a world of love and kindness we would live in when we choose love. Imagine the world if we truly did make an effort this week to just broadcast love. I'm certain that it would make a difference in your life and the lives of the people around you. In his essay, Your Word Operates Instantly, Holmes reminds us, it is self-evident that all things come from the invisible, are projected by it, and remain within it. Our thought is an activity of this invisible causation. And when we say, this word shall manifest in this place, we may be, and we must be certain that it will do so. If we truly believe that our word has power, that what we think about, we bring about, and that when we put our attention on something, the entire universe lines up to help manifest whatever we placed our attention on for us, that it seems very clear to me that we should be choosing love and kindness and non-judgment and compassion and understanding all the time. Another part of our meditation today included words that I feel summarize how we can create a world that works for everyone, a world in which only love abounds. I modified these words slightly to put them into the form of an affirmation that we can use daily. How is it I so easily and willingly know all I wish to broadcast to the world is something that will help and heal and bless, and something that will cause everyone I meet to feel a new strength, a new hope. And by the way, a nicely formatted form of that affirmation is out on our website. You can go download it if you'd like. So in summary, decide this week to use the power of your word, to remember that the good you desire, you already possess. Use that 3-step process. The power exists and operates from the center of our being. We approach all things in love. And I use my power affirmatively to put love into every situation. And remember that you are a spiritual broadcasting system. Watch if you're broadcasting love or judgment. And be flexible and tolerant like Holmes recommended. Open your receiving channels to love. Your word operates instantly. Let your spirit go forth to look upon Christ's face. Broadcast only what helps, what blesses, what gives strength and hope. So here's the affirmation for the week. How is it I so easily and willingly make the choice today to know that the good I desire, I already possess? To accept I am a spiritual broadcasting system, and to remember my word operates instantly. So your challenge for the week is to make a conscious choice. Find the lost word that lives within you and be aware of what you're broadcasting. And use your broadcasting system to heal, to bless, to give strength and hope. Remember, the divine spirit is present within us no matter where we are. Let's pray. So we take a deep, nourishing breath and we embrace this lesson to remember the power and the strength of our word, to approach all things in love, to know that the divine is love and ease and grace and understanding and acceptance. and to know that as individual expressions of the divine, we have that ability to love and to see things with acceptance and non-judgment and understanding and compassion. And what I know is the truth this week is that each of us is using our power of our word for good, and that it is coming from the heart as well as from the mind, that we are approaching all things in love. I know that we are using our power of our word affirmatively, and that we are being flexible and tolerant in all that we do. So I am grateful. I am grateful for this community. I'm grateful for the support that we have for each other to remind us to be loving and kind, to remind us to choose heaven today. And I am grateful that I know that the God without, that divine spirit, is present within me no matter where I am, and is present within each person on this planet no matter where they are. So it's from all that gratitude that I release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing that the divine has already said yes, already said it's done. So I can just release it, let it be. I say amen, and let's affirm it together. And so it is. And I want to thank you for all the people that have continued to send in their offertory gifts. I thank everyone for their support. And I want to tell you now that we are planning a Christmas in-person service on Wednesday, December 22nd. So mark your calendar and save the date. In the meantime, enjoy our offertory blessing.